Okay, so today we're going to focus on cleaning up some of the other parts of the engine that we've already removed, specifically the intake manifold. We're going to give this a bit of a clean. There's not too much to do on this one. It's actually in really good condition, but we're going to clean it up, get it painted so it's ready to go back on the boat. Then I'm going to get the heat exchanger and we're going to take a quick look at that. I noticed some leaking around it before. So first of all, let's have a quick look at the intake manifold. Let's get this cleaned up, get it repainted, get it ready to go back on, and then we'll pull the intake manifold and take a better look at that one. Okay, so not in too bad shape. Everything is fairly good. There is no obvious damage to it at all. It was good when I took it off the boat. There's a little bit of surface rust on here. Inside, you can't really see too clearly. Let's see if I can lift it up there. You can see we've got some rust and things going on the internal channel. So I'm going to try and get a bit of a wire brush going in there just to loosen that up. And we'll blast that through with some compressed air to get that out of the way. We've also got down at the very top end here, we've got the water jacket. So this is where the thermostat housing would sit. The thermostat sits into this recessed part here. I'm going to give this a really good clean up as well. There's not too much in there. There's a little bit of fine rust. There's no big chunks or anything, which is great because we don't want anything big and chunky going through the journals within the actual water system, the water cooling. So the first thing I'm going to do is just give it a really good clean off, get the wire brush on it, get some of this loose flaky paint off, and then we'll start having a quick look at some of the insides. Okay, so down in this section here, down at the bottom, you can see we've got some bits of mastic that are still stuck on there. I want to get that off because I want to be able to paint over there. When this seals onto the engine, there's actually a bead of mastic that goes along this edge, and this is just where someone's got a bit carried away and put a lot on there. So I'm going to spend a bit of time just gradually scraping this stuff off. There's probably some chemical we can use, but mechanical scraping is just as good. We just want to get it off the engine. So I've just turned it over to take a quick look at the underside. This is the part that's normally facing into the V of the engine. As you can see, it's actually not in too bad shape at all. Really good to clean. Mounting surfaces, we'll clean some of these ports, just give them a bit of a wire brush through, and just get rid of any of the surface rust, so it's all good to go. So still a bit more cleaning to do, but we'll get there. Okay, so I'm going to spray paint the top of this with primer and the blue paint that we've used before. Now I really don't want to get any paint inside these ports if I can help it. So what I'm going to do is put a temporary paper gasket over the top. I'm just going to cut it around the shape of this. Easiest way to do it, again because it's just paper, just push down on the 4 pins and that will give you your guidance holes. Try and make it so it's fairly straight. There we go. Okay, that'll make an indentation on the paper. You can see I've made some indentations there. What I'm going to do is just cut those with a sharp knife. And again, it doesn't need to be anything too fancy. All we're doing at this stage is just crisscross. I'm using a scalpel that I happen to have in the toolbox. But you can use just like an X-Acto knife or anything like that. So that will allow that to pass over the top of those. There we go. Should be roughly, not to rip it too much. There we go. So we'll push that down. Now, top tip, rather than trying to draw around it and trace around it and measure things, just use your hand and just rub along the edge where it's raised. And you'll already be able to see the dirt coming off my hands there where I've been working on the intake manifold is actually creating almost like a pencil line around the part that we want to protect. And what I can do is once I've cut that, I made that little shape using my dirty fingers. Who says dirty fingers aren't useful, eh? There we go. Okay, take that off, and now I've got a template to cover over. So what I'm going to do is just cut around the outside of there, and then I'll be able to lay that on the top, and as I spray downwards, it won't go in. If I was spraying sideways, obviously I'd need to mask it with tape and things like that, but this is by far the quickest and easiest way to do it. We don't need to do anything too fancy. This isn't a work of art, this is just to protect that top surface. If we did get paint in there, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but again, when this is taking fuel into the input, the last thing we want is really to put contaminants in there as well. So it's not pretty, but I think it'll work. So let's just pop that back over the top. It's a little bit more fragile than it was before because we've cut away the surface now. Pop that over that one. There we go. Okay. Not great, but as I'm spraying down, that's going to stop the majority of paint going in there. On the water jacket, I'm going to do the same. What I'm going to do, in fact, is just put a bit of something inside there. If I find a small rag, there we go, that should do us. And I'm just going to pop that inside there so that it stops any paint from switch. Need a smaller rag than that. Stop any paint going inside. There we go, it's a small one. I just pop that in there. Again, the top surface area here that we're looking at, this section here, not too worried. I can actually scrape that back with a sharp knife afterwards. So that's pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to clear the area, and what we'll do is we'll get our etching primer, we'll get that over the top here, and then we'll put our engine enamel over the top of that, and it's just a case of getting this to dry off. Okay, so the second part of this video, we're going to take a quick look at this, which is our heat exchanger. What happens is raw water comes in from the seawater, comes directly through a through hull, through a water pump on the front of the engine, circulates through the pipes, and actually enters this unit. Unlike a car that would cool down using a radiator with air rushing through the foils on the front of the radiator and cooling the water within, because it's within the boat and it's in an enclosed space, we don't have that luxury. We don't have as much airflow through. So what we need is a way to cool down the coolant that circulates around the engine. Now, the system that we're using on the boat is a closed system on both engines. What it means is that there's a antifreeze and coolant that circulates around the engine in the same way as a car engine would. But we also have seawater that pumps around the same process, and they don't mix, but one will come close to the other to cool the other off. So the seawater that's pumped through is cooler usually than the water that's circulating around through the engine. So this unit actually combines the two. It allows one set of water to flow through some pipes and the other set of water to flow around those pipes and cool them. So it's a way to actually cool down the internal cooling system of the engine. So all this is a big cylinder. There's lots of pipes and outlets and things. Some take raw water in, like this bottom one, and then will allow raw water to come back out. Others allow circulating water from the cooling system through and will allow that to come back out. But essentially what we're looking at inside here is kind of like a box of straws. If you imagine when you were a kid, you'd have the straws that you'd get, the plastic straws, they'd come in a little cellophane container, and when you look down it, you can see all the way through, and it's just a structure of straws stood up. Exactly the same as inside this. There's a series of copper tubes that are encased in this bigger tube, and water will flow, salt water or seawater or lake water will flow around the outside of those tubes to cool the water within. So when I take a first look at this, a few people might look at it and go, oh my goodness, this looks really bad, there's a lot of corrosion there and things. There is. This is actually made of brass. So this sort of corrosion where salt water has come in contact with brass doesn't worry me. I mean, that's the sort of thing that's going to happen anyway. What we're looking for is any major signs of leakage coming from the sides here. So these end caps come off, and within there is a rubber gasket that goes around both ends. There's one on each end of the unit, and we'll take those off and we'll have a look and see what it's like inside. Most likely we will replace the rubber gaskets to make sure we've got a good tight seal. We'll give this a really good clean up. We'll flush it out with some fresh water as well. So if there's any debris or sea creatures or bits of shell or anything like that that's caught within the system, because it's had salt water flushing through it, we'll push that out using a hose pipe. So for now, I'm going to remove this little hose branch that's on the top here. So we'll take this off. We'll take off the brackets that are actually on here as well. These bolt to the engine, hold this on the back of the engine above the gearbox. And then we'll take off each of the end caps and the rubber washers, and we'll have a quick look and see what the inside's like. Okay, so one of the things I want to show you, see the notice there, protective anode. Normally there is a zinc anode that goes in here, and you can see this one is completely missing. So the reason that we got so much corrosion around here is because the anode is actually useless. It's done. It should have been replaced a long time ago. These things on the boat are essential to making sure that any of the engine components and things don't have corrosion on them, including the prop shafts. Basically anywhere where we've got metal that's connecting with some of this corrosive seawater. So one of the jobs that we're going to do today is actually clean this out as well. I'm going to have to order a new anode to put in there. That's going to help protect the engine. We'll be able to see what's left of the other end, and I suspect very little when we take this end cap off to have a look inside. So I've released the two brackets. It's going to be a case now of just removing these rubber strips and popping the brackets off, and we should be able to lay this down and start taking off some of the other ancillaries. Okay, so that was interesting. Just removed this tree from the end, and it's actually got a thermostat in there as well. So I didn't realise there were thermostats actually in these heat exchangers. I've used many of them before, but never had one with a thermostat in there. So that's an interesting thing to see. What it does do is give me a first view of the inside of this unit. So I'm just going to turn that around so you can have a quick look. And you can see inside there the copper tubes. And there's a little dent in there where that thermostat's hit it. But you should be able to see fairly clearly. Those are actually in really good condition. This is actually one of the better units that I've ever looked at. Usually those are really corroded inside. So quite encouraging so far. Let's see how we get on taking the end caps off. Oh my word. Okay. That is a lot of corrosion. Serious amount of corrosion. I don't know if you can see that. So yeah, got a bit of work to do on this. Thankfully the inside's not too bad, but you can see we've had water getting behind and it's affected the aluminum plate that's on the end here. That really is quite a mess. So there's a little gasket goes around there normally. Okay, so that's going to take a bit of cleaning up. Nothing too serious. The important thing is inside. We want to make sure that the inside looks okay, and as you can see you've got all these tubes. That's the remains of the anode. Most of it is gone, so we'll take that anode out and put a new one in. Let's take the other end cap off and see how bad that looks. And just the same, the aluminum has reacted really badly with this salt water. My goodness. Okay, well that's encouraging though. When we look on the inside, a little bit of gunk in there, but that looks fairly clean. I'm actually really pleased with the condition of the inside. Very disappointed with these. I mean, this is salt crystals. You can probably have that with your dinner. Not that I want to, but these are big salt crystals. Kind of like rock salt that you'd see if you went to the store. So I'm going to get all these pieces cleaned up, and then probably in the next video we'll give this more of a clean up. We'll blast it through with the hose pipe, and then we'll start prepping it ready for some paint and putting it